Jack Harrison stood at the entrance of Galactic Academy and took a deep breath. The massive silver building stretched into the sky, its towers gleaming in the light of 3 suns. Students of all shapes, sizes, and colors moved past him. Some floated, others crawled, and many walked on varying numbers of legs. Jack, with his 2 legs, 2 arms, and ordinary human appearance, felt more out of place than ever. Just blend in, his father had told him before sending him off. Don't draw attention to yourself. That was easier said than done. Humans were rare at the Academy. Earth was considered a backwater planet, barely worth noting on galactic maps. Most species viewed humans as primitive newcomers to space travel. Jack adjusted his simple gray uniform and walked through the main doors. Inside, the ceiling opened up to reveal a simulated galaxy swirling overhead. Class schedules floated in mid-air next to each student's name. Jack found his and memorized his first location, Advanced Physics in Room 507. Finding his way through the twisting corridors was harder than he expected. By the time he reached Room 507, class had already started. All eyes turned to him as he entered. Our new student has arrived," said Professor Zinn, a tall being with purple skin and 4 arms. "You must be Jack Harrison from Earth." The way the professor said Earth made it sound like a dirty word. Several students snickered. "Yes, sir," Jack said. He spotted an empty seat near the back and quickly sat down. "Since you're late, perhaps you can tell us the basic principles of quantum folding?" Professor Zinn asked with a smirk. Jack hesitated. He knew the answer, but his parents had warned him not to show too much knowledge. "I'm sorry, we haven't covered that on Earth yet." Loud laughter erupted from the front row. A girl with shimmering blue skin and glowing white eyes turned to look at him. Her hair moved like water around her head, changing colors from deep blue to purple. She was beautiful in an alien way, but the cruel smile on her face ruined it. "Of course they haven't," she said in a musical voice. "They're still trying to figure out how their own sun works." More laughter followed. The blue girl seemed pleased with herself. "That's enough, Lyra," Professor Zinn said, though he was smiling. 2. Mr. Harrison can't help where he comes from. Let's continue with our lesson. Jack kept his head down for the rest of class. He took notes and tried to ask no questions. When Professor Zinn explained concepts Jack already understood, he pretended to look confused just like the other students. When class ended, Jack gathered his things quickly, hoping to escape before anyone could talk to him. No such luck. The blue girl, Lyra, blocked his path as he tried to leave. "So, Earth boy," she said, looking him up and down, "what's it like to come from a planet that still uses fossil fuels?" Her friends gathered around, all clearly excited to watch Jack get embarrassed. "We don't all use fossil fuels," Jack said quietly. "Oh, right. Some of you have figured out solar power," Lyra said with fake excitement. "How impressive. Next, you'll tell me you've discovered how to leave your own solar system without help." Jack knew Earth had done exactly that, but not in the timeline these students knew. He kept quiet. "What's wrong? Solar flare got your toe?" Lyra asked. Her friends laughed again. "I need to get to my next class," Jack said, trying to step around her. Lyra moved to block him again. "You know, I've never seen a real human up close before. You're so plain. No extra limbs, no special abilities. Your skin doesn't even change color." "Sorry to disappoint you," Jack said. "Can you do anything special?" Asked one of Lyra's friends, a boy with scaled skin and yellow eyes. "Humans must be good at something." "We're good at being underestimated," Jack said before he could stop himself. Lyra's eyes widened, then she laughed. "He's got a spark after." "Oh, maybe there's hope for Earth yet." She stepped aside. "See you tomorrow, monkey boy." Maybe you can show us how humans eat with those primitive mouthparts." Jack walked away, ignoring the continued laughter behind him. He checked his schedule and headed to his next class. The day continued much the same way. In every class, his Earth origin was mentioned, usually followed by snickers and whispers. By lunchtime, Jack was exhausted from pretending to be less than he was. He found an empty table in the corner of the massive dining hall and sat alone with his food tray. The meal consisted of foods from across the galaxy, most of which he recognized but pretended not to. "Is this seat taken?" asked a soft voice. Jack looked up to see a tall, slender student with pale green skin and large, kind eyes. "No," Jack said, surprised anyone would want to sit with him. "I'm Roz," the student said, sitting down gracefully. "I noticed how Lyra treated you in physics. She does that to everyone she considers beneath her." "So just about everyone?" Jack asked. Roz smiled. "You catch on quick. For what it's worth, not all of us care where you come from." Another student approached their table. This one looked like a walking crystal, with glowing circuits visible beneath translucent skin. "This is Cal," Roz said. "We're both sort of outsiders, too." "Why?" Jack asked. "I'm an empath," Roz explained. "Most students find it uncomfortable to be around someone who can sense their feelings." "And I'm half machine," Cal said, his voice slightly mechanical. "My species integrated with technology generations ago. Some of the organic species find it disturbing." Jack nodded, feeling a connection with these two outcasts. "I'm Jack, just a regular human, apparently." "There's no such thing as a regular anything," Roz said kindly. "Every being has something that makes them unique." Jack smiled, careful not to show how much this simple kindness meant to him. That night in his small dormitory pod, Jack sat on his bed and pulled out a holophoto he kept hidden in his personal items. The image showed his parents standing in front of a sleek spacecraft with Earth Force insignia. His father wore a commander's uniform, and his mother the outfit of a senior scientist. This version of his parents wouldn't exist for another 300 years. Jack turned off the holophoto as his room computer announced an incoming message. It was text only, encrypted. "Stay invisible. First month crucial. Remember who you are, but never show it. We're watching. Mom and Dad." Jack deleted the message and lay back on his bed, staring at the artificial stars projected on his ceiling. Tomorrow would be another day of pretending to be less than he was, of enduring Lyra's teasing, of hiding his true nature. But one day, everything would change. One day, the galaxy would know what humans could really do. 2 weeks passed at Galactic Academy. Jack settled into a routine of classes, study sessions with Roz and Kel, and avoiding Lyra whenever possible. The blue-skinned girl never missed a chance to make fun of his human heritage. She called him Dirtwalker and Monkey Boy in front of other students. Jack just lowered his eyes and walked away each time. Today was different. The class schedule showed combat training in the main gym. Jack had been dreading this day. His parents had warned him to be careful during physical activities. "Remember to hold back," his father had said. "Your reflexes will give you away." The gym was a massive room with a ceiling that seemed to disappear into the clouds. The floor could change into different terrains at the touch of a button. Today, it looked like a simple training mat. Coach Brax was a huge 4-armed alien with red skin and a voice that boomed across the room. "Today, we test your basic defensive skills. Pair up." Students quickly found partners. Jack stood alone until Coach Brax noticed him. "Earth boy, you're with Lyra." Jack's stomach sank as Lyra walked toward him with a smirk on her face. Her blue skin glowed brighter when she was pleased with herself. "Try not to cry when I knock you down," she whispered. Coach Brax explained the exercise. One student would attack, and the other would defend. No serious hits allowed, just practice moves. When he blew his whistle, Lyra immediately lunged at. Jack saw her movement in what felt like slow motion. His enhanced reflexes, a standard feature of humans from his time, made her seem sluggish. He could easily step aside, grab her arm, and flip her to the ground. But that would reveal too much. Instead, he moved just barely in time, making it look like a lucky dodge. Lyra spun around, surprised. Lucky move, Earth Boy. She attacked again, faster this time. Jack pretended to stumble as he dodged. For several minutes, he carefully made his movements look clumsy, but just good enough to avoid being hit. Then Lyra tried a dirty trick. While aiming for his chest with one hand, she secretly swung her leg to trip him. Jack didn't think he reacted. He jumped over her leg with perfect timing and balance, then caught her extended arm and gently used her own momentum to flip her onto the mat. The gym went silent. Lyra lay on the floor, stunned. Jack immediately realized his mistake. No beginning human student should have reflexes that good. Excellent move, Harrison. Coach Brack shouted, breaking the silence. Where did you learn that? I got lucky. Jack said. She was off balance. Lyra stood up, her eyes narrowed. That wasn't luck. The whistle blew again, and Coach Brax called for the pairs to switch roles. Now Jack had to attack while Lyra defended. He was careful to make his movements simple and slightly clumsy. After class, Jack hurried to leave, but Lyra caught up with him in the hallway. No human has reflexes like that, she said, blocking his path. What are you hiding? I'm not hiding anything, Jack said. I watch a lot of combat sports on Earth. Maybe I've picked up some moves. Lyra didn't believe him. He could see it in her glowing eyes. But she let him pass without another word. Later that day, the class gathered for xenobiology with Professor Ilga, a gentle blob-like creature with 7 eyes and a soothing voice. Today we study the respiratory systems of methane-based life forms, she announced. The Doraxians have a unique 3-chamber breathing system that allows them to survive in both methane and oxygen environments. As Professor Ilga displayed a diagram on the screen, Jack noticed a mistake in the labeled parts. The secondary filter chamber was mislabeled as a storage sac. Without thinking, he raised his hand. Yes, Mr. Harrison? Professor Ilga said. I think there's a small error in the diagram, Jack said. The part labeled as storage sac is actually the secondary filter chamber. The storage sac is the smaller organ below it. The room went silent again. Professor Elga blinked all 7 eyes in surprise. That's correct, Mr. Harrison. But this information isn't in your textbook. How did you know that? Jack felt his face grow hot as all eyes turned to him. I read about it somewhere. Read? About it where? Lyra asked from across the room. Doraxian anatomy isn't exactly popular reading material on Earth. I have a strong interest in alien biology, Jack said weakly. I study extra materials. Professor Ilga seemed impressed. Well, your extra studies are paying off. Very good observation. After class, Jack walked quickly to his next lesson, hoping to avoid questions. But Lyra was waiting for him around the corner. First combat skills, now expert knowledge of alien anatomy, she said. You're not what you seem, Earth Boy. I'm just a good student, Jack said, trying to move past her. Lyra stepped closer. No, there's something else, and I'm going to find out what it is. Jack met her eyes for the first time without looking away. Maybe you should worry about your own studies instead of investigating me. This boldness surprised Lyra. She stepped back, allowing Jack to continue down the hall. That evening, the Academy announced a special engineering exercise for the next day. Students would be tasked with dismantling and reassembling a damaged WARP core simulator. It was an advanced project that would test their knowledge of spatial physics. Jack sat on his bed and stared at the announcement on his screen. This was bad. Warp technology was something he knew too well. His mother had been one of the leading warp engineers of her time. 300 years in the future. He typed a quick encrypted message to his parents. Engineering test tomorrow. Warp core simulator. Too risky? The reply came minutes later. Perform. At 75% capacity. Make small, deliberate errors. Stay in the middle of the pack. Jack deleted both messages and lay back on his bed. He was tired of pretending to be less than he was. Tired of Lyra's constant suspicion. Tired of hiding. His room computer chimed, indicating a visitor at his door. When Jack opened it, he was surprised to find Roz and Cal standing there. "We brought study snacks," Roz said, holding up a bag of what looked like glowing blue cubes. "Thought you might want company. And help with the engineering test," Cal added. "Though after what happened in class today, maybe you should be helping us." Jack smiled and let them in. For the first time since arriving at the academy, he felt like he might have found true friends. Even if they didn't know the real him, they accepted the him he pretended to be. But as they studied late into the night, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that his carefully constructed cover was beginning to unravel. And Lyra Zaxevith was pulling at the threads. The engineering lab buzzed with nervous energy as students gathered around the damaged warp core simulator. The device sat in the center of the room, its parts glowing with soft blue light. Professor Vex, a tall insect-like being with gleaming, compound eyes, explained the test. You will each have 30 minutes to dismantle the core, identify the damaged components, and reassemble it correctly. This is a test of both speed and accuracy. Jack felt sweat form on his forehead. He knew warp cores better than most senior engineers at the academy. His mother had let him take apart real ones since he was a child. "Begin now," Professor Vex announced, starting the timer. Students rushed to their assigned simulators. Jack approached his slowly, pretending to study it with uncertainty. He carefully removed the outer casing, making sure to fumble slightly with the tools. Across the room, Lyra worked quickly on her own simulator, her blue fingers moving with practiced skill. But even she seemed challenged by the complex device. Jack identified the damaged components immediately, a misaligned phase converter and a cracked dilithium matrix. He could fix both in under 5 minutes. Instead, he spent 10 minutes just examining them, occasionally glancing at other students to match their pace. "Having trouble, Earthboy?" Lyra called over. "Need me to show you which end of the tool to use?" Some students laughed. Jack ignored them and continued working. He deliberately avoided using advanced techniques, choosing the most basic approach to repairs. 20 minutes into the test, no student had completed the task. Jack had been working slowly but steadily. He needed to finish in the middle of the pack. Not first, but not last either. Then he heard Professor Vex speaking urgently with another teacher who had entered the lab. Something about a system malfunction and visiting diplomats in danger. Jack's instincts kicked in. If there was a real emergency involving the Academy's systems, people could be hurt. He made a split-second decision. His hands moved in a blur. Parts came together perfectly as he reassembled the warp core with expert precision. He made adjustments no student should know how to make, improving the design as he worked. "Done," he announced, stepping back from his perfectly repaired simulator. The room fell silent. Professor Vex turned to stare at him, with all 4 of his compound eyes widened in shock. "Mr. Harrison? You've completed the task in 22 minutes. The professor hurried over to inspect Jack's work. His antenna twitched in surprise. "This is perfect, and you've even corrected the efficiency imbalance in the matter-antimatter injection system." He looked at Jack with new interest. "How did you know to do that? That's not part of the standard curriculum." Before Jack could answer, the emergency alarm blared throughout the academy. Red lights flashed on the walls. "All students remain in place," came an announcement over the speakers. "This is not a drill. Security breach in progress." Professor Vex rushed to secure the lab doors. "Everyone stay calm and away from the windows." Jack felt a sense of dread. He moved to a computer terminal while everyone was distracted by the alarm. With quick, practiced movements, he accessed the Academy's security systems, something no student should be able to do. The screen showed multiple intruders entering the diplomatic wing, where important visitors were meeting with Academy officials. The security robots had been disabled, and the emergency doors were malfunctioning. Jack knew he shouldn't reveal his knowledge of the Academy systems, but lives were at risk. He continued typing, bypassing security protocols, to see what was happening. "What are you doing?" Lyra's voice came from behind him. She had approached without him noticing. "Nothing," Jack said, trying to block the screen. "That's not nothing. You're in the security mainframe." Lyra's eyes widened. "How did you get access?" "That requires senior administrative codes." Before Jack could answer, the screen showed armed intruders entering the main council chamber where the diplomats were trapped. "They're going to hurt those people," Jack said, no longer caring about his cover. "I need to help. You? What can a human student do against armed attackers?" Lyra asked, but her voice held more curiosity than mockery now. Jack didn't answer. He typed a series of commands, rerouting emergency power to the diplomatic wing and activating the secondary defense systems that the intruders had missed. On the screen, protective barriers suddenly deployed around the diplomats, shielding them from the attackers. "How did you know how to do that?" Lyra demanded. "Not now," Jack said, still working. He sent a command to lock down the attackers' position, trapping them between security doors. Professor Vex noticed what Jack was doing and rushed over. "Mr. Harrison, how did you access those systems? That's completely unauthorized." "I'm sorry, Professor, but those diplomats were in danger," Jack said. "I knew I could help." "But how did you know?" The professor insisted. "These are advanced security protocols." The emergency lights suddenly stopped flashing. "Attention all personnel," came a voice over the speakers. "The security breach has been contained. All students remain in their current locations until further notice." Jack stepped away from the computer, aware that everyone in the lab was staring at him. He had exposed too much of his true abilities. His cover was blown. "I think you owe us an explanation," Professor Vex said quietly. "No first-year student, especially not one from Earth, should have that level of knowledge about our systems." Lyra crossed her arms. "I knew there was something strange about you. Are you a spy? Is that it?" "I'm not a spy," Jack said. "Then what are you?" Lyra demanded. "Because you're definitely not a normal human student from Earth." Jack looked around the room at the suspicious faces. Even Roz and Kel looked confused and worried. He had broken his parents' most important rule: don't draw attention to yourself. Before he could decide what to say, security officers entered the lab. Their leader, a stern woman with gray skin and silver eyes, pointed directly at Jack. "Jack Harrison, you are to come with us immediately for questioning." "Why?" Professor Vex asked. "What has he done?" "Academy security systems show he accessed restricted protocols during the emergency," the officer explained. "The headmaster and Galactic Council representatives want to speak with him." Jack felt a cold knot of fear in his stomach. The Galactic Council was the last group he wanted investigating. Him. If they discovered his true origins, everything his parents had worked for would be at risk. As the officers led him toward the door, Lyra stepped forward. "I'm coming too," she announced. "I saw what he did." The lead officer looked annoyed, but nodded. "Fine. You can give your statement to the council." As they walked down the hallway, Lyra leaned close to Jack. "I don't know what your secret is, Harrison, but I'm going to find out." Jack said nothing. His mind raced, trying to figure out how much to reveal. The truth was too dangerous, not just for him, but for the future of humanity. But he was running out of options and excuses. He was led into a large chamber, where several important-looking aliens sat at a curved table. In the center stood a holographic display showing the security footage of Jack accessing the system and saving the diplomats. "Mr. Harrison," said the headmaster, a tall being with crystal-like skin, "it seems you have some explaining to do." Jack stood before the Galactic Council representatives, his heart pounding. The room was large and circular, with walls that seemed to shimmer between solid and transparent. 7 important-looking aliens sat at a curved table, with the Academy headmaster at the center. "Mr. Harrison," the headmaster said, his crystal skin reflecting light in rainbow patterns, "our security logs show you accessed Level 5 security systems during the attack. That access requires senior administrator privileges. How did you bypass our safeguards?" Jack remained silent, weighing his options. Next to him, Lyra watched with intense curiosity. An older alien with gray skin and wise eyes leaned forward. "Young man, those attackers were targeting the Galactic Peace Summit representatives. Your actions saved lives today. We are not looking to punish you, but we need answers." Jack took a deep breath. "I'm good with computers," he said simply. "Good? With computers?" A reptilian council member hissed in disbelief. "No student good with computers could break our security that quickly, especially not a human student." The word human was said with the same dismissive tone Jack had heard since arriving at the academy. Something inside him snapped. "That's the problem, isn't it?" Jack said, his voice suddenly stronger. "You all think humans are primitive and simple. You've decided what we're capable of before even giving us a chance." The council members looked surprised at his outburst. "The truth is," Jack continued carefully, "Earth's technology is more advanced than we let the galactic community know. We keep our best innovations to ourselves because of exactly this kind of prejudice." It wasn't the complete truth, but it wasn't entirely a lie either. In his real timeline, humans had indeed hidden their true capabilities for decades before revealing their full technological power. "Are you saying Earth has been hiding advanced technology from the Galactic Alliance?" the headmaster asked, his voice sharp with suspicion. "I'm saying we're tired of being underestimated," Jack replied. The council members exchanged glances. Lyra stared at Jack with new eyes, her earlier mockery replaced with genuine interest. "Even if what you say is true," said a council member with multiple tentacles for arms, "it doesn't explain your knowledge of our specific security systems. Those aren't public information, even to Earth's government." Jack realized he had talked himself into a corner. Before he could respond, alarms blared again throughout the academy. The walls of the room shifted to show exterior views. Several sleek black ships were approaching the academy, weapons charged. "The attackers have returned with reinforcements," the headmaster said, standing quickly. "We need to evacuate the council members." "Those aren't regular ships," Jack said, studying their design. "They're temporal vessels." Everyone turned to stare at him. Temporal vessels? Time ships? The gray-skinned council member looked shocked. "That technology is theoretical at best. How would you recognize such ships?" Before Jack could answer, the room shook violently as the first attack hit the Academy's shields. The headmaster rushed to a control panel. "Our shields are failing," he announced. "They're using some kind of phase-shifting weapon our defenses can't block." Jack knew exactly what was happening. A temporal preservation front had found him. They were the group his parents had been hiding from. Extremists who believed that humanity's rise to power in the galaxy needed to be stopped. "Let me help," Jack said, moving toward the control panel. The headmaster hesitated, then stepped aside. Jack's fingers flew across the controls, making adjustments no Academy student should know how to make. "What are you doing?" Lyra asked, watching over his shoulder. "Modifying the shield frequency to counter their weapons," Jack explained. "They're using temporal phase disruption to bypass your standard barriers." On the displays, the shields around. The Academy shifted from blue to purple as Jack's modifications took effect. The next blast from the attacking ships bounced harmlessly away. "How did you know that would work?" The headmaster demanded. Jack knew it was time for at least part of the truth. "Because I've seen these weapons before. These attackers aren't after your diplomats. They're after me." Silence fell over the room. "Why would they be after you?" Lyra asked. "Because of what I know. Because of who I am." Jack turned to face the council. "I haven't been completely honest about where I'm from." "You're not from Earth?" asked the reptilian council member. "I am from Earth," Jack said. "Just not the Earth, you know." A powerful blast rocked the Academy again. Jack's modified shields were holding, but barely. "We don't have time for riddles." "Boy," the tentacled council member said impatiently. "I'm from Earth, but from 300 years in the future," Jack said finally. "A future where humans become one of the most advanced species in the galaxy." No one spoke for several seconds. Then Lyra laughed. "Time travel? That's your explanation?" "That's impossible." "Is it?" Jack looked directly at her. "You've been questioning how I know things no human should know. How I can do things that seem impossible for someone from a primitive planet. This is why." The gray-skinned council member approached Jack slowly. "If what you say is true, you represent a major temporal violation. Time travel is forbidden by every theoretical protocol we've established." "My parents are temporal researchers," Jack explained quickly. "They discovered that a group called the Temporal Preservation Front was altering history to prevent humanity's natural development. They traveled back to gather evidence, bringing me with them. We've been hiding ever since." Another blast hit the Academy. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. "They've breached the outer defenses," the headmaster announced. Jack turned back to the controls. "I can reroute power to strengthen the inner shields, but it won't hold them for long." As he worked, Lyra moved beside him. Her glowing eyes studied his face with new understanding. "So all this time, when I was making fun of you for being a primitive human ... double quotes," she began, "I was actually from a future where humans have technology far beyond anything you've seen," Jack finished. "That must have been really annoying," Lyra said, a hint of her old smirk returning. Despite the situation, Jack smiled. "You have no idea." The Academy shook again as another blast hit. "We need to evacuate," the headmaster said. "These temporal attackers clearly have technology we can't match." "Not all of us can't match," Jack said. He turned to the council. "I have knowledge from the future that could help us fight back, but I need you to trust me." The council members looked at each other uncertainly. "The boy just saved us twice," the gray-skinned member said. "I think he's earned some trust." The headmaster nodded reluctantly. "What do you need?" "Access to the Academy's main power core and defense systems," Jack said. "And I'll need help. 2 people who know the Academy's systems." "I'll help," Lyra volunteered immediately, surprising everyone including herself. Jack looked at her with new respect. "Thank you." As they rushed out of the council chamber toward the Academy's central core, Lyra spoke quietly to Jack. "So in the future, humans become powerful enough to master time travel?" "Among other things," Jack said. "The species you've been mocking as primitive eventually develops technology that changes the galaxy forever." Lyra was quiet for a moment. "I guess I owe you an apology." Jack shook his head as they ran. What matters is now. We need to stop these attackers before they destroy the academy and any chance of the future I come from. Jack and Lyra raced through the academy hallways as warning lights flashed around them. They could hear the sounds of fighting in distant sections of the building. Students huddled in classrooms while security forces rushed past. The main power. Core is 2 levels down, Lyra said as they ran. But what exactly are you planning to do? The attackers are using temporal technology, Jack explained. Normal defenses won't work against them. We need to create a chronostatic field around the academy. A what? It's like a bubble that stabilizes time itself. Their weapons push objects out of normal time flow. This will counter that. They reached a large doorway marked with warning symbols. Lyra pressed her hand to the scanner, but it flashed red. We need higher clearance, she said. Jack pulled a small device from his pocket. It looked like a simple stylus, but when he pressed it against the scanner, complex codes flashed across the screen. The door slid open. Another future gadget? Lyra asked. My mom's research tool, Jack said. She studies security systems. Inside was a massive room with a glowing blue column in the center. Energy pulsed up and down the column in hypnotic patterns. Control panels lined the walls. This is it, Jack said. The quantum core. They hurried to the main control panel. Jack's fingers flew across the interface, bringing up systems and schematics that Lyra had never seen before. How do you know our systems so well? She asked. In my time, this academy is a historical landmark, Jack explained as he worked. I've studied the original designs. They're actually not that different from what we still use 300 years from now. Some good designs stand the test of time. The door behind them slid open. Roz and Kel rushed in, looking worried. There you are, Roz exclaimed. The academy is in chaos. Everyone's looking for you, Jack. How did you find us? Lyra asked. Kel tracked your biosignatures, Roz explained. What's happening? There are rumors that Jack is some kind of spy. Not a spy, Jack said, still working on the controls. Just a student from a different time. He quickly explained his true origins while continuing to modify the Academy's power systems. Roz and Kel listened with wide eyes. So all this time, you were from the future? Kel asked. That explains your knowledge of engineering. And why you always seemed uncomfortable when people made fun of humans, Roz added. The building shook violently. Jack checked a display showing the Academy's exterior. They've landed troops, he said grimly. We don't have much time. What can we do to help? Kel asked. Jack pointed to another control panel. I need you to reroute auxiliary power to these circuits. Roz watched the door. If anyone other than Academy security tries to enter, let us know immediately. They all moved to their tasks. Lyra stayed with Jack, helping him reconfigure the systems. So in your future, she said quietly, what happens to species like mine? Do Arcturians and humans get along? Jack smiled slightly. In my time, humans and Arcturians are close allies. Your people's artistic ability combined with our technical innovations led to a cultural renaissance. Really? Lyra looked surprised. Really, some of my best friends are Arcturians. Jack hesitated, then added, that's part of why you're teasing. Bothered me so much. I know what our species can accomplish together. The door slid open. Roz called out a warning, but it was only the headmaster and the gray-skinned council member. Mr. Harrison, the headmaster said urgently, the attackers have breached the inner defenses. They're demanding we hand you over to them. We won't do that, the council member added. But we need to know what you're planning. I'm creating a chronostatic field, Jack explained. It will neutralize their temporal weapons and protect the Academy. That technology is beyond our current science, the headmaster said. Not beyond mine, Jack replied, but I need a few more minutes. Suddenly, alarms blared even louder. On the security screens, they could see figures in black armor moving through the academy hallways. Their weapons fired pulses of energy that seemed to distort the very air. They're heading this way, the headmaster said. They must know what you're trying to do. We'll hold them off, the council member decided. She pressed a button on her wrist, and a force shield appeared across the doorway. How much longer do you need? 2 minutes, Jack said, working faster. Lyra watched him with new respect in her eyes. The boy she had mocked for being primitive was now their only hope of survival. Outside, they could hear weapons fire. The force shield on the door flickered as it absorbed blasts from the attackers. Shield at 60%, the headmaster announced. Almost there, Jack said. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he made the final adjustments. Kel, are the power relays ready? Ready, Kel confirmed. Shield at 30%, the headmaster warned. Jack took a deep breath and pressed the final sequence. The blue column in the center of the room pulsed brightly, then changed to a purple-white glow. A wave of energy spread outward from the core, passing through the walls. On the security screens, they watched as the attackers' weapons suddenly stopped working. The distortion effect vanished, and regular Academy security forces quickly moved in to subdue the intruders. It worked. Roz exclaimed. The force shield on the door stabilized as the temporal attacks ceased. The headmaster checked the security screens with amazement. The attackers are retreating to their ships, he reported. But the ships aren't able to activate their main drives. The chronostatic field prevents temporal manipulation within its radius, Jack explained. Their ships rely on that technology to function. The gray-skinned council member looked at Jack with new eyes. Young man, I think we severely underestimated your species. That was the point, Jack said. The Temporal Preservation Front doesn't want humans to develop naturally because they know where it leads. We become one of the dominant species in the galaxy, not through conquest, but through innovation and cooperation. Lyra stepped closer to Jack. So what happens now? Will you stay at the academy? Jack shook his head sadly. I can't. Now that my cover is blown, I need to find my parents. The TPF will keep hunting us. You don't have to face them alone, Lyra said. I could help. Jack looked surprised. You spent months making fun of me for being human. Now you want to help me? Lyra's skin flushed a deeper blue with embarrassment. I was wrong about humans. About you. Let me make it right. The headmaster cleared his throat. The academy could provide protection. Your knowledge could be valuable to us. And a fair exchange of knowledge would benefit both our times, the council member added. Jack considered their offers. He knew his parents had always planned to gather allies when the time was right. Maybe that time had come sooner than expected. First, we need to secure the academy and make sure all the TPF agents are captured, Jack said. Then we can talk about the future, or in my case, the past. Later, as security teams finished rounding up the last of the attackers, Jack stood at a window overlooking the academy grounds. The 3 suns were setting, painting the sky in beautiful colors. He felt someone approach and turned to see Lyra. So, future boy, she said with a small smile. I guess I was teasing the wrong person all this time. It's okay, Jack said. You didn't know. That's the thing about prejudice, Lyra replied thoughtfully. We judge based on what we think we know, not what's actually true. Jack nodded. In my time, that's one of the most important lessons humans learned. It's what helped us become better as a species. I think I'm starting to understand why humans have such a bright future, Lyra said, if they're all as forgiving as you. Jack smiled. For the first time since arriving at the academy, he felt like he could truly be himself. The human from the future who came to the past changed the present and might just save the future. So what happens tomorrow? Lyra asked. Tomorrow, Jack said, I teach you all about what Earth really becomes. And maybe you can teach me a few things about Arcturians that I don't already know. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. I think I'd like that. As they stood looking out at the setting suns, Jack knew his journey was just beginning. The girl who had teased him in class was now his ally. His Earth origin had indeed changed everything for both of them.